Good morning, you're watching Anewz. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories for the hour. Israel and Iran attacks continue as leaders warn of further retaliation. G7 leaders gather in Canada to discuss the Israel-Iran conflict. The US Embassy urges American citizens in Iran to depart via the Azerbaijani border. The conflict between Israel and Iran is intensifying, with deadly strikes on both sides stretching into its fourth day. Israel says it's targeting Iran's nuclear program, while Tehran is responding with drones and missiles. More than 200 people have been killed in Iran since Friday, and at least 10 in Israel overnight. With no ceasefire in sight, both leaders are doubling down.
The latest Israeli strikes on Tehran have killed Iran's chief intelligence officer and his deputy in what Israel is calling a continuation of Operation Rising Lion. More than 220 people have been killed in Iran since the start of Israeli strikes on Friday. Iran has hit back with drones and ballistic missiles since then. Several people were injured in the Israeli city of Haifa, and at least 10 people have been killed in strikes overnight. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister says this is about stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions. He says intel shows Iran was on the verge of weaponizing uranium.
We can't have the world's most dangerous regime have the world's most dangerous weapons. We're protecting ourselves, but by doing so, we're protecting many others. The intel we got and we shared with the United States was absolutely clear. Was absolutely clear that they were working in a secret plan to weaponize the uranium. They were marching very quickly. They would achieve a test device and possibly an initial device within months, and certainly less than a year.
Iran says it won't negotiate under fire.
We are by no means seeking to expand the war, but naturally, as our army, our powerful IRGC, and our dear people have shown, appropriate responses have been given so far. The more they try to escalate, naturally, the responses will become tougher and more severe.
Iran's military says the Palestinian-occupied territories are no longer safe for Israelis and urged residents of Israel to leave the vicinity of vital areas for their safety.
We currently possess a complete database of all your sensitive and critical locations and vital points. Know that staying in underground shelters will not provide you with security.
Meanwhile, leaders of the G7 are meeting in Canada from Monday, with the escalating Israel-Iran conflict expected to top the agenda. With no ceasefire in sight and both countries vowing to press on, the region remains on edge.
Fuel shortages, fear and frustration. That's the reality for many in Tehran as residents queue for hours at petrol stations amid continued Israeli airstrikes and fears of further escalation.
In the Iranian capital, scenes of urgency and uncertainty. Cars and motorcycles stretch around the block as residents scramble to fill up before the next Israeli strike.
People are worried, and most of the petrol stations are crowded because people are planning to get out of the city.
Some are trying to stay calm, even if they are unsure of what lies ahead.
I don't believe residential areas were hit. I'm generally relaxed. I'm not sure what's exactly happening.
But the growing queues and fuel rations are making it harder for many to move.
People are certainly worried. It's not a good situation. Petrol stations are not providing the amount we need. A car needs 40 to 50 litres of fuel, but they're only selling 20 litres, and then you have to queue up again. And most people are planning to leave the city, or they have other engagements to attend. But everyone is stuck here, as you can see.
And for those thinking of sheltering in place, options are limited.
We don't have access to a shelter. There are no shelters in the whole city. I don't think there are any places people can go to in an emergency.
As missiles continue to fly over the weekend, Tehran is bracing for what may come next, with no clear end in sight.
G7 leaders meet in Canada amid rising global tensions and economic challenges, with recent attacks by Ukraine and Israel likely to shape the agenda.
Leaders of the G7 nations are gathering in Kananaskis, Alberta on Sunday and Monday, with security concerns and economic tensions expected to top the agenda. The ongoing war in Ukraine and rising hostilities between Israel and Iran are likely to drive discussions, as both conflicts escalated in the lead-up to the summit. Israeli president has called on the group to push for the removal of nuclear weapons from Iran, speaking amid scenes of destruction at a recent missile strike site. Canadian analysts suggest that the timing of the Ukrainian and Israeli operations were likely strategic, aimed at influencing the summit's focus.
Well, one can't help but think, given the extensive planning that went into both the Ukrainian attack and the Israeli attack. I mean, these attacks take a long time to get your people into place. And so the calculation that both the Ukrainians and the Israelis would have had to have made is, what is the impact if we do this before, after, or during the G7? And so obviously they're making some form of calculation, and the calculation is either they're thinking this gets them on the agenda and they want to be discussed amongst the G7 nations, or they don't care.
Economic concerns, particularly US tariff policies, are also expected to surface.
I think that it'll be sort of like, okay, you know, how do we deal with the economic challenges without necessarily saying that the whole problem is the American tariffs? I mean, that is going to be the elephant in the room as we move forward.
Organisers are expected to skip the traditional joint communiqué to avoid a repeat of the 2018 summit, when Trump retracted his support after leaving.
Mitch McCann reports from Canada's Kananaskis region with the latest on the G7 summit.
World leaders are arriving here in Kananaskis, Canada, at a time of great volatility in many parts of the world. In the coming days, at the top of the agenda now for discussions is likely to be the ongoing escalation and violence between Iran and Israel that we've seen in recent days. Now, most G7 countries have already put out statements calling for the violence to be de-escalated. However, we understand now, according to reports, that all G7 countries are likely to come out together and put out a joint communique or a statement about this, calling for a de-escalation intention. So expect that to be at the top of the list of discussions. Also, there are a number of other items on the schedule for the coming days that have been set by the leader of the host country, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. Among them, a coordinated response to wildfires. That's a very important issue to Canada and, of course, the United States. Canada currently dealing with wildfires in the Saskatchewan province, but also the United States has been dealing with serious fires in recent months and years. Of course, we don't have to look far back to remember the devastating fires in Los Angeles, but also in Hawaii before that. So that'll be one point on the agenda. Another is energy security and also discussions on the advancements of artificial intelligence. But it's fair to say that conflicts around the world are probably going to dominate discussions here in the Kananaskis region of Canada. There's obviously the ongoing war in Gaza that will be talked about among the leaders, but also the war in Ukraine. Now, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, has personally invited President Volodymyr Zelensky here, and he'll be here in the coming days to talk about strategies and ending that war. Now, that is an interesting discussion involving the United States, because in recent weeks it has seemed as if, based on Donald Trump's comments, that he is growing tired of this process taking too long, a slow process to end that war. He's also expressed frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin, suggesting he might not be wanting to find peace in the end. So those are issues that will be talked about, but obviously trade and the economy will be another one. It will be potentially awkward for Donald Trump to sit around the table with other world leaders he's put large tariffs on in recent months. It will be interesting having Donald Trump here. Many leaders will be working out and strategizing how to interact with the US president, not wanting to antagonize him. We don't have to look too far back in 2018 when Donald Trump left here early and then criticised the then Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. So world leaders will be approaching Donald Trump with caution, but it's very likely that many will want to meet him and have bilateral discussions as they try and reduce their own trade burdens as those negotiations continue. So plenty of topics for discussion here in the Kananaskis region, but of course conflicts around the world are likely to take precedent. Mitch McCann for Anewz in the Kananaskis region of Canada.
The manhunt for a gunman who killed a prominent Minnesota lawmaker and her husband and wounded another 2 people has come to an end. The suspect, Vance Bolter, who was taken into custody on Sunday evening after a 2-day statewide search.
After a 2-day manhunt across Minnesota, police arrested Vance Bolter, a 57-year-old man accused of posing as a police officer before carrying out 2 politically targeted shootings. Former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were killed in their Brooklyn Park home early Saturday morning. Hours earlier, Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette were attacked at their home in Champlin, 9 miles away. The Hoffmans survived. In a message shared by Senator Amy Klobuchar, Yvette Hoffman wrote that her husband took 9 bullets and she took 8. Authorities say Bolter altered a vehicle to resemble a police cruiser. Inside, a manifesto, a target list, and a tan cowboy hat believed to be his. A reward of $50,000 had been offered for his capture. Local authorities praised the efforts of its officers, stating that there were more than 100 policemen involved in the search and they received more than 400 public tip-offs.
Tensions flared in downtown Los Angeles at the weekend as police used tear gas and mounted units to disperse crowds during the second week of protests. Protests intensified following a military parade on Sunday, marking 250 years of the US Armed Forces, coinciding with President Donald Trump's birthday. The protests followed a week of tension in the city where demonstrations over federal immigration raids resulted in Trump calling in National Guard troops and US Marines to help keep the peace. China's taking a major step forward in aviation, giving the green light for full-scale production of a massive amphibious aircraft designed for critical missions on both land and sea. The move highlights Beijing's push to boost its tech strength and maritime presence. Our Mahnur Maktoum has more from China, Beijing.
China has officially approved the AG-600 Kunlun, the world's largest amphibian aircraft for mass production. This marks a significant advancement in its ambitions to become a self-reliant and globally competitive aviation industry. Developed by the state-owned Aviation Industry Corporation of China, the AG-600 can perform a variety of critical functions, including maritime search and rescue, aerial firefighting, and emergency response operations. Roughly the size of a Boeing 737, the aircraft can operate in land and sea environments, which makes it ideal for disaster relief and operations in remote coastal regions. The mass production approval was followed by years of development and testing, including thousands of flight hours in challenging environments and meeting all the regulatory requirements for commercial mass production. This milestone strongly demonstrates China's technical capacity in complex aircraft systems and positions the AG-600 as a potential export product, with interest reportedly coming from countries in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Strategically, the AG-600 can boost China's emergency preparedness and extend its operational reach in maritime zones such as the South China Sea. It also reflects Beijing's push to reduce reliance on foreign aerospace technologies and showcase its industrial achievements on the international stage. Manu Maktoum, Anewz, Beijing, China.
Several foreign countries have appealed to the government of Azerbaijan for assistance in evacuating their citizens from Iran, requesting permission for transit through Azerbaijani territory en route to their home countries. The evacuation process remains ongoing. Many of Russia's Grand Symphony Orchestra express heartfelt gratitude after arriving safely in Azerbaijan from Iran. They thank both Azerbaijani and Russian authorities for the coordinated effort and announce a special concert at the Baku Philharmonic dedicated to the experience they've just lived through.
Yes, my name is Pyotr Sorekin. I'm a cellist in the Grand Symphony Orchestra, and I'm truly touched by the attention shown to an ordinary musician. On behalf of the orchestra, I want to thank everyone, especially the Azerbaijani side, for the great honour and support they gave us by welcoming our orchestra in this difficult situation. We are frequent guests in Baku, and I hope we'll be visiting even more often.
Надеюсь, будем еще чаще. Мы с радостью всегда.
Добрый вечер. Меня зовут Денис Калинский. Я играю на виолончели в большом.
Good evening. My name is Denny Kalinsky. I play the cello in the Grand Symphony Orchestra of the BSOVR. The evacuation went, if I can put it this way, according to plan. We didn't face any major difficulties. Everything was very well organised. The team worked in a coordinated way. Everyone maintained a mobilised attitude, you could say. Overall, everything went smoothly. All the services operated efficiently. Everything was great. We'd like to express our gratitude to everyone, in particular to the Azerbaijani side for receiving us, as well as the Russian services, the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Everyone did their part and helped us. A sincere thank you to all of them.
Российские, Министерство культуры и МИД России. В общем, все сработало, все помогли, и большое им спасибо человеческое.
Подготовился к интервью, я просто я просто.
I want to thank the Republic of Azerbaijan for giving us the opportunity to evacuate so quickly and smoothly. What's more, we've made the decision to perform a concert tomorrow at the Baku Philharmonic with the group that stayed behind and didn't fly out. It may be an unusual concert, but I believe it will be genuine and heartfelt, because these are the people who experienced those 3 intense days. And yet, we've made it to Azerbaijan.
Amid rising tensions in the region, the United States has issued a stark warning to its citizens in Iran: leave immediately, and urges Americans to exit the country, recommending Azerbaijan's border as the safest route out. The advisory follows recent evacuations coordinated with Azerbaijani authorities, who've already helped facilitate the safe passage of foreign nationals.
In a new advisory, the United States Virtual Embassy in Iran has issued a pressing call for American citizens currently in Iran to depart the country immediately, and where possible, to do so through neighboring Azerbaijan. The advisory issued over the weekend comes amid escalating regional tensions. With limited diplomatic presence inside Iran, the US is relying on its virtual platform to communicate urgent travel guidance. The message specifically recommends the use of Azerbaijan's land border crossings, notably the Astara checkpoint, citing it as one of the safest and most cooperative routes for departure.
Appreciate you doing this for us. As I said, the border is not usually open, so you've been an exception, and we very much appreciate it. There is very few options at this point, so yeah, it's a tough situation over there. Yeah.
The Azerbaijani government has already facilitated safe passage for several foreign nationals, including Russian citizens and diplomatic staff from the Kyrgyz Republic.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has warned that tensions sparked by Israel's recent attack on Iran pose a serious threat to regional stability. In a phone call with Oman's Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, Erdogan stressed the importance of resolving the crisis through dialogue, especially with nuclear talks set to resume. He also said that the developments must not shift focus away from the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Parliament of Georgia has approved amendments to the law on the status of foreigners and stateless persons, introducing a new residence permit specifically for IT specialists. The law will take effect starting on the 1st of September, with the final list of required documents to be announced before then. The permit will be valid for 3 years, but will be revoked if the holder spends less than 183 days in Georgia within any 12-month period. Eligible applicants include foreign IT professionals registered as labour migrants, small business owners or representatives and managers of international IT companies. This permit allows holders to legally reside in Georgia and access various state programs. Interior ministers from Commonwealth of Independent States countries gathered in Astana to strengthen cooperation in the fight against organised crime. The meeting brought together officials from Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Kazakhstan's Interior Minister Yerzan Sadanov called for greater regional cooperation, not only to combat organised crime, but also to respond to all types of criminal threats and ensure public safety. The sides also discussed ways to block illegal arms trafficking and improve the exchange of intelligence and operational data. Now to sport news. We've got a fast-paced roundup of top sports stories making headlines across the globe, from high-octane Formula One drama in Canada and a thrilling US Open update to stunning results in the World Club Cup. We'll also dive into key football transfers and managerial shake-ups. Our Nick Summerby has all the latest headlines and developments from across the sporting world.
Let's get you straight into the Grand Prix, which happened in Canada this weekend. Wow, what a race it was, and congratulations to George Russell. It was the big news that he was starting off in pole position. He fought off of Verstappen, but there was a protest 2 hours at the end of the race from the Red Bull team. They looked at the rules and they thought that he drove erratically behind the safety car, trying to put Verstappen off. They looked at it, they didn't go with the appeal, and George Russell won, so it was really interesting. George Russell won, Verstappen second. This will be the first victory as well for Mercedes. So Mercedes first and third, Antonelli finished third, and Piastri finished fourth. But to go on from that as well, Lewis Hamilton sixth, Lando Norris in 18th. So starting to heat up. Austria next, and you just get that feeling that it's starting to bubble away nicely, and it's really starting to get in its groove. So looking forward to the next races as we move on. Let's not forget as well in Azerbaijan, that will be coming up in September, so we look forward to that as well. The US Open result, JJ Spawn, remember what I said to you at the start? I said Scotty Scheffler, who can beat him? Well, he's gone and done it, JJ Spawn. What an interesting, he beat Bob McIntyre with an unbelievable 65-foot birdie in the final rounds, and what scenes it was there. That's his first major win as well, so congratulations from him. The World Club Cup is really starting to heat up as well. I'll take you through some of the results and what we have to look forward to as well. Al Ahly played Inter Miami in a massive opening ceremony. It was a chance to see Messi as well in the Inter Miami kit with David Beckham, obviously the owner of the football club, but it was a 0-0. Bayern Munich 10-0 against Auckland City. I'd imagine a few pundits will be saying about some of the teams, what are in it. Should they really be in it? Are they up to the level? But 10-0 to Bayern Munich. Paris Saint-Germain, the European champions, beat Atletico Madrid 4-0, full of confidence. Palmeiras 0-0 with Porto. Botafogo 2-0 against Seattle Sounders. And this is what we have to look forward to tomorrow as well. Boca Juniors, Benfica, Flamenco, Espérance Tunis, Fluminense Dortmund, and River Plate are playing Urawa Reds. So you'd imagine at the start there might be some crazy results, but as the competition starts to heat up, it'll start getting more exciting. But just going back to the first game, Al Ahly against Inter Miami, 60,000 people at the Hard Rock Stadium, so there is a big interest. And let's not forget, the end of next season is the World Cup in obviously Canada, Mexico and America, so it's really starting to heat up, and football's going to be massive in America over the next year, so all eyes will be on that region. Going away from that as well, with the news, I mean, at this time of the season, the news what I give you there's a lot of rumours going around whether players are going to go, whether there's going to be new managers. So we have to go along with it. I will confirm to you when the time is, when it actually happens. Keith Andrews, who's a player who I played against quite a long time ago. He played for Ireland, played for Blackburn. He was a free kick specialist at Brentford. He looks like he might be taking over from Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank obviously is a new manager at Tottenham Hotspur. So he looks like he might be the next person in. Hopefully they get him in before these guys start going back to pre-season training. It's not far away till the Premier League starts again. Erik ten Hag, remember him? Ex-Manchester United coach and Ajax coach. He's obviously at Leverkusen at the moment. And with Wirtz, who moved to Liverpool for 116 mil, he is looking to replace. And he's looking at Justin Kluivert from Bournemouth. Let's not forget the legend, what his dad was and what big performances his son Justin's been doing in the Premier League. So he is looking to replace, looking to bring players, and obviously he knows a lot about the Premier League, so expect him to come and try and take one of our superstars in the Premier League and take them over to Leverkusen. Victor Gyores is apparently saying no to Manchester United, which is a quite strange one because Coach Amorim was his manager at Sporting Lisbon, and it looks like maybe it's edging towards Arsenal. Let's not forget Arsenal need a striker. That's what the fans want. That's why they didn't win the league last year, because of a striker. So it's a case of watch this space, and what a striker he would be for them as well. That is me. For the time being, there's news happening on a regular basis, by an hourly basis, but I'll be the one to bring it to you. I'll see you in a couple of days. Look forward to your company.
These are the updates from Baku. Stay tuned to Anewz for more updates and developments.